it's the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. I'm Juliet, the daughter.
And I'm Kevin, the dad.
And this week, as we said, we're doing another tribute episode. Hopefully, we won't have to do another one for quite a while, but we had to, because this week we are paying respects to David Johansen and his album, Live It Up. So, Dad, what do we need to know?
Well, unfortunately, we need to know that David Johansen died on February 28th. He was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and a brain tumor back in 2020. Oh, and in November 2024, he fell and broke his back in 2 places. And he died from cancer. He was 75. And we did a Buster Poindexter podcast a while back, so check that out if you want a full bio on David. But before we get into Live It Up, just a few random thoughts. I got to see David Johansen only once, back in 1987 at Rhode Island College. And he was there performing as Buster Poindexter. And it was a fun show. He led a conga line through the audience and gave me a thumbs up when he saw I was wearing a Buster t-shirt, which I got as part of a package at In Your Ear Records way back when they used to be on the east side on Thayer Street. And the thing was, like, I bought the vinyl of Buster Poindexter, and for some reason it came attached with a t-shirt that was obviously made by some local, because the picture was from the front page of a local weekly at the time called The New Paper. And also during the show, someone asked him to play Personality Crisis, to which Buster/David replied, "Nah, I don't do that transvestite shit anymore." But back then, who knew that the New York Dolls would get back together in 2004? It was just David, Sylvain, and Arthur Kane, because they were the
Only one
survivors.
left.
Yep. And no one knew that David and Sylvain would release 3 more Dolls albums from 2006 through 2011.
Oh, hey.
Arthur had died of leukemia in 2004. And yes, their second go-round lasted a little longer than their first go-round.
How about that?
Yeah. Sylvain would die in 2021 from cancer, leaving David as the last Doll standing. Now, last year, the Dolls were on the ballot for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and which I thought would have been a slam dunk, but silly me. No, did not happen. I bet they get in next year, though, and not one member will be alive to finally get that recognition.
Because, of course.
Yes. They've been eligible since 1998, and I think the hall should hang its head in shame.
Yes.
They really should.
Agreed.
I did see the 2023 Martin Scorsese concert/documentary Personality Crisis one night only. Buster Poindexter performed the David Johansen songbook in January 2020 at the Cafe Carlisle in New York City. And it was right before COVID, and it would also turn out to be his very last gig.
Wow.
The cancer and brain tumor were discovered right at the beginning of the pandemic, but he never made it public. The fall I mentioned earlier occurred the day after Thanksgiving 2024, and David was bedridden and required around-the-clock care.
Oh, my God.
And then after that, his stepdaughter went online and set up the
GoFundMe?
Yeah, but it was from some other place, which unfortunately I cannot remember the name, but your mom and we contributed some money to the fund.
Oh.
Anyway, as for Live It Up, I think the title alone sums up David's philosophy of life. It was recorded at the Paradise Theater in Boston on February 4th and 5th in 1982. Now, the Paradise is actually still around, though now it's known as the Paradise Rock Club. It's on Commonwealth Avenue, kind of near Boston University.
Okay.
Now, the cover of the album was not taken from the Paradise show.
Really?
It's from 1981's MTV's New Year's Eve Rock and Roll Ball, back when they were just first starting out, and they would just play almost anyone, because they needed to fill up all that airtime. Excuse me. I think I bought my vinyl copy of the album in 1987 at Good Vibrations in Seekonk, which I think now is Payless Shoes.
Oh, gee, well, I don't think Payless exists anymore.
Oh, really?
Well,
okay.
The last one I saw didn't.
Okay.
Providence.
So, yeah, I bought my copy of Live It Up, I think probably after buying my copy of Buster Poindexter. I like the Buster album, so I thought, well, I'm sure I'll probably like Live It Up. And also, the first song on Live It Up, I remember actually got some radio play.
Oh.
It wasn't top 40, but hey, it was on the app. Someone was playing it. So at least I knew one song. And as for the band that backs up David,
Yeah.
they're serviceable. And I don't mean that as an insult. They just get the job done. Charlie Giordano, the keyboardist, will go on to play on 6 of Pat Benatar's albums.
Cool.
Play with Buster Poindexter in his Banshees of Blue. And since 2006, he's been a part of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band.
Oh, cool.
Guitarist Hugh Gower played for Rachel Sweet, Carlene Carter, and Graham Parker. And drummer Tony Machine would be in Buster's Banshees of Blue. So David had a band of pros backing him up. Some critics loved it, and some thought that the band kind of sanded the rough edges off the songs. And after all these years of listening to Live It Up, it hit me that it's really similar to Lou Reed's 1974 live album, Rock and Roll Animal, because Lou had the same thing. He had a bunch of studio pros backing him up while he was playing mostly Velvet Underground songs. And again, some critics loved it, and some thought the band wrecked the songs, and that was a travesty. How dare these songs be presented in a professional manner?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, let's jump into it.
Yes, let's. First track, the opening of the show, an Animals medley. We gotta get out of this place. Don't bring me down, and It's My Life. I think the medley of these 3 songs was very well done because they all seem to fit together into one cohesive story. David is in a rut, his lady isn't helping him either, so he decides enough is enough. It's his life and he can do what he wants. Shout out to the drummer for kicking ass here, and for the background singers, particularly during It's My Life, as they give David extra oomph as he screams the title. He's already pretty adamant, but they hammer in this sentiment even more. So far I don't feel cheated out of seeing a live experience because everyone's performing so well it's worth a listen. Great opening medley. Also, maybe even a double meaning here. It's Dave's show, he can do what he wants, so if he wants to cover the Animals, so be it.
Yep. And first I'm going to say check out our Animals episode if you want to learn more about them.
It's long, but we had to.
Yeah.
That was also a tribute episode.
Yeah, the medley has a nice flow to it. One song segues into the other seamlessly, and you got to give it up to the band for that. David sounds like a gruffer version of Eric Burden, and I could definitely have seen the two of them teaming up, trading vocals on these and more Animal songs.
Sure.
The medley starts quietly and then builds until the end where David's almost screaming the words, "It's my life," over and over and over. And I think that last song was his statement of purpose. And like I said, I remember hearing this song on the radio way back in 1982, possibly on WHJY, and I really liked it, and I hate to admit it, but it took me some years to figure out who did this. I mean, back then, we didn't have the interwebs like you kids do now, but it just never occurred to me to call a radio station and say, hey, who did that? Anyway, this is a great way to open the show.
Next track, Frenchette. I think this song has an interesting message. The way I interpret it is David telling this girl, listen, you don't need to put on a front with me and your fake leathers. I know what I want in love, and I don't think I'm going to find it. Let's not stress trying to find something that doesn't exist or by pretending to be someone we're not. Let's just dance, and maybe even a little more. My favorite parts of this song are when the tempo increases as David screams, let's just dance. And then as the audience screams, let's just dance, all of them getting to participate. It's a good time and perfect for a live concert because, well, you can dance along with it. Must have been great to see live.
This is from his first solo album called, wait for it, David Johansen.
Yep.
Yeah, so he sings, you call out love in French, it's just Frenchette. I've been to France, so let's just dance. And David knows what's natural and naturalette, what's leather and leatherette, but he can't get the kind of love he wants and needs. So he says, let's just dance because what else is there?
Yeah.
My favorite part is when he sings how he and she were marveling at the Marvelettes and they fell in love with Veronica and every one of the last Ronettes, and how Levi Stubbs got burned messing around with Bernadette. And that Four Tops reference leads us into the next song.
Reach Out, I'll Be There. When it comes to which version is better, the Four Tops takes it. No contest. The Four Tops original is very much a ballad with yearning. He wants this girl who is crying and alone to see him, waiting to comfort her and take care of her. And his feelings are so strong he can't help but sing. David's rendition is more like a motivational pep talk. Like, stop your crying. We can get out of this together and it's going to be better. Like, she loves him already and he's reminding her of what he's promised. However, if I felt like listening to one version over the other, I'd put on the Four Tops.
This was originally This was originally written and produced by Holland Dozier Holland for the Four Tops. It hit number one in 1966, and it's considered their signature song. And it was inducted into the Library of Congress's National Recording Registry in 2022. So it will outlive us all.
Correct.
Except for Keith and the Cockroaches and Cool Whip. There have been a ton of covers, and I think this is the best one. David and the band give the song a lot of drama, especially with drummer Tony Machine doing that galloping doom 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 doom. I mean, it's just like the song is just like really charging at you.
Next track, Is This What I Get for Loving You? I thought this song was very poignant. David loves this person very much, and what does he find out? They're running around with someone else. He knows he gave her everything that he could, and probably the saddest part of the song is when he said, I'm gonna miss your arms because they're the only arms I feel home. And to really hit home that he didn't just lose a partner, but he lost somebody who he felt safe with, and someone he could see himself building a future with. I thought he performed it very well.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Ronettes were referenced back in Frenchette, so, I guess you got to cover them too. But the Marvelettes were also referenced, and they were not covered. So maybe we're not getting the whole concert, because it's only, I think, about 45 minutes or so. And
really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And I like to think that he did at least an hour and a half or an hour or so. Anyway, this was written by Carole King, Jerry Goffin, and Phil Spector.
Oh, jeez.
And it only made it to number 75 on Billboard's Hot 100. And it was also later covered by Marianne Faithfull, which I sent you her version as well in the Ronettes. I don't know if you got to listen to them.
Nope, I forgot that one.
Oh, okay. Marianne's is kind of hypnotic in a way. I can't describe it better than that, but it's like you listen to it and you just cannot stop listening to her voice.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so David loved her, trusted her, and did his best, only to hear that she's been seen with a certain party. Is this what he gets? It's kind of like the relationship version of, I bust my ass all day at work, and for what? Come on now. Come on. And I kind of wonder if, like, Phil having a hand in this is kind of like his message to Ronnie before they got married or when they were married. But he also kind of kept her a prisoner in the house. So maybe it was before they got married, because after that he really didn't want her like recording or living life or anything like that.
Didn't George date? What girl group am I thinking of that George Harrison dated a member of?
You may be thinking of, I think you may be thinking of the Ronettes.
Okay, yeah. I was like, that sounds familiar.
And I'd heard David's version first, so obviously it's my favorite. And I do have the Ronettes original on the back to mono fill box. And it's not bad, but like I said, I'm kind of used to David's version, so.
Next track, Donna. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Did David write two songs called Donna? Because there's two different sets of lyrics I found for this
song.
No,
when I looked up the lyrics, everyone kept putting up Richie Valens' version from
okay.
1950s. So some websites out there, you need to do your homework.
Gotcha. There's not much to the story of the song. David's got it bad for a girl named Donna, and that's kind of it. And there's a cool instrumental at the end. I don't really have too much to add, so Dad, if you do, take it away. Okay,
this is also from his album, David Johansen. And David just wants Donna to sing for him one more time. She's constantly on his mind. And he thinks about the times she sang a cruel and simple song and filled the room with bedlam, and everyone sang along. And the thing is, there's a lyric that he doesn't sing in the live version that is in the studio version. I heard about the one who flew in all the way. I never thought you'd do it, Donna. I always thought you'd stay. But it's like he just wants that one more time. But you know what the thing is? You get that one more time, then you want another time, then you want another. Anyway, I think this song soars all the way through. Great guitar work. And when David sings the line about Donna's drummer pounding strong, Tony Machine just comes in there and makes his presence known. And thus ends side one.
Okay, kids, time to turn the record over.
We'll wait. Hey, side two.
All right, next track. Build Me Up, Buttercup. Let me first say, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this song, because I know that you and Mom disagree about this rendition passionately.
More so, well, not as much as we disagree about See You in September.
Correct.
But that's another podcast for another time.
I am going to say I do not hate this cover. I think it is very fun, and David is very faithful to the original with two exceptions. One being the tempo, and two, how he chooses to end the song. However, I think that the tempo he picked is way too fast. you could interpret it as an artistic choice because he's kind of spiraling out of control since he keeps being let down after being built up so much. But if I had to choose between the two, I would definitely listen to the original. However, I do not think this is the grossest offense against music that some people claim it to be. Just let the guy have fun. You can think that the cover is not good while also not taking away someone's joy for enjoying it.
Okay, this was written by Mike Dabo, who was once the former lead singer for Manfred Mann back in the 60s, and Tony McCauley, and first recorded by the Foundations in 1968. It went to number 3 on the Billboard Singles Chart in 1969. It's been used in TV shows and movies, most notably at the end credits of There's Something About Mary, in which the cast sings along to the song. It was also used in the series of Geico commercials.
Really?
Yeah, and for some reason it's played at every home game played by the Wisconsin Badgers football team.
Okay.
I don't know why. Now, the original version is pure sunshine pop, so leave it to David and the band to turn it into a real song. I think,
Whoa.
I think, the faster tempo, they definitely want to rock out more.
What do you mean a real song? The first one isn't a real song?
Well, I don't know.
It's fun. It's pop candy, and I love it.
It's giving me the diabetes.
Oh, jeez.
I like this version better. Your mom thinks it's the equivalent of shoveling snow, which I asked her, does that mean that, he'd be shoveling our driveway and just making too much work for himself when he should be using the snow thrower? And she said, no, she just thinks it's, too much work in general. But she's entitled to her opinion, even though it's wrong. And I love how that version ends with the Vegas-y piano. Doon, 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 doon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there.
Yeah, so there.
All right. Next track.
Which, the look on your face is kind of like you're struggling to remember that.
Yeah, I don't... Well, the thing is, I remember the original. I don't really remember this one, so shows what I think, don't it?
I guess it does.
Next track, Melody. David hears that Melody has been walking around town, and he immediately goes into a mental downward spiral. His thoughts are consumed by Melody in itself that he can hear, too. What was interesting is when the backup singers start singing the word doctor, doctor over and over, my mind immediately went to Bad Case of Loving You. Doctor, doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you. Would be interesting to see who lifted what from whom. What else I found interesting about this song is that it ends on a happy note. Like if he keeps thinking about her over and over, then it's as close to bliss as he's ever going to get, and it keeps his mind happy and distracted. A song that does a good job musically of showing obsession.
This is from his album In Style. And I thought it was more like, not so much Melody, the name of a person, like Melody from Josie and the Pussycats, but I was thinking more like he just hears this melody, this song that just haunts him, he says, even in his sleep, and he's tried to show someone, but their heart couldn't see it or hear it, and their heart just slipped away. So I think he's trying to find someone who hears the same thing that he does.
Maybe.
And it's like there's just a certain song that he can't take when he hears it played, and it's just obsessing him. But he never names it, which I think is good in a way because you can, because I think everyone probably has that song that just obsessed them at one point for the longest time.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure what mine was, but I'm sure I had one. The band charges in at the start, and they just keep charging all the way through.
Next track, Funky But Chic. Okay, you really have to be careful when you're singing this title because all I could think in my head was funky butt cheek.
Which is what you're supposed to think.
As in B-U-T-T?
C-H-E-E-K.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
The groove of this one is really good, and I think my favorite part of the ending was when David started screaming, all right, all right, all right. I also thought this was going to be one of those songs where they just sang the title over and over, and honestly, I wouldn't have minded that. The lyrics are okay. I was zoning out a little bit, but I think it was about bringing back funky style and pulling it off really well. So, Dad, if you have anything to say it now.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is also from his first album, David Johansen. And I think if the Dolls had stayed together, this would have been on their third album, like back in the 70s, not when they reunited. But he did write it with fellow ex-Doll Sylvain. Someone gave Dave a pair of shoes. His mom thinks he looks pretty fruity, but in his jeans he feels rockin' and he's getting stronger. He's a man of taste, of style, and he doesn't wear nothing too flashy or neat. He just wants to be able to walk down your street. And I think it's like it just brings up like how they dressed up as the Dolls. He just wants to be able to walk down your street looking like that and not getting any crap.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a 56 Mercedes-Benz that he had painted cocoa brown, which that would be an interesting color, I think, for any type of car in general.
Yeah.
And his thing is he just wants to go down to the boutique and bring back something that's funky but chic. And this is just flat out a fun song. And during the audience participation part, when David sings Funky Funky Butt and the audience responds butt chic, at one point he does interject, what cheeks? Because here's the weird thing. I can't believe someone actually devoted a web page to this.
What?
Called Best Puns in Songs.
Oh, that's fun.
And it was, this is the greatest pun ever. Everyone says it's funky but chic, but think about it. It's funky butt cheeks.
Yeah.
And this poster is just going on and on about this song. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty deep dive and you really need to get a life. But hey, I was just stunned reading it.
He's having fun.
I guess.
They're having fun, whatever their gender is. Next track, Bohemian Love Pad. This song is a bit more faster-paced rock than the previous tracks, but I think it's a good palate cleanser. David went to a party one night where people were uptight and broke out into a fight, and he thought it was the greatest thing in the world because the woman he loves is right beside him and he wants to take her to bed. And that's really all there is to it. So if they're going to go to bed, he's going to have fun, and the music conveys that.
Yep, this is from Here Comes the Night, and this is another song that was written by David and Sylvain, and yet it's another song that I think could have been on the Dolls' third album. Dave's got cockroach traffic in his apartment, in his pad, that's got him drinking too much beer. Broken records are on the floor. There was a voodoo party one night, and the neighbors got uptight, and David tells his woman that driving her crazy is all he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
She drives him mad and makes him bad in his Bohemian Love Pad, a place where anything goes, and I'm sure it probably does. And again, I think it fits in with the Dolls' aesthetic of like total anarchy, and anything is just up for grabs. And this song is hard charging and it doesn't let up. And for the first time ever, I noticed that Charlie Giordano's piano at the end is just a little odd for this song, but the thing is, it just really, really works.
Meanwhile, back at the concert, yeah, we're talking about Stranded in the Jungle. Having listened to all 3 versions of this song to be published for the podcast, I can definitively say the live version by David Johansen is my favorite. Here's why. First of all, with the original, I think they said it in the wrong key because it's non-threatening. And you could argue, given the context of the time, given the fact that they were a black group, they couldn't come across as threatening in any way because they wouldn't sell any records to white audiences, which I get.
Tell that to Little Richard.
Touché. And then the New York Dolls and David fixed this with the key change. Because your plane crashed in the jungle, so of course there's going to be a sense of fear. And the first key sounds way too fun. But then the New York Dolls and Dave created a sense of menace with just one change. Second, the reason I don't like the original New York Dolls recording is because the background singers they have imitating parrots, it sounds a bit too much like the Tiki Room at Disney, which is way too happy for the subject matter of this song. I was expecting Tiki Room in the Tiki 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 Room, like at any moment. And third, I find it really impressive when you don't have a studio to work in. You have to improvise to create the same sort of effects. So David and the background singers are able to manipulate their voices in really interesting ways to sound like the animals and ambiance of the jungle. And I definitely knew when I listened to the song, I'm like, oh, I've heard this before, but it's this specific version because I remember the and I remember how David's voice sounded when he played the narrator and said, "Meanwhile, back in the jungle." So for those reasons, this track is my favorite and easily my favorite of the whole CD.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is from the New York Dolls' second album, Too Much Too Soon. It was written by Ernestine Smith and James Johnson for James's group, the Jayhawks, back in 1956. Also covered in 1956 by the Cadets, whose version was better known. The Dolls covered it on their second album, Too Much Too Soon, so it does stand the reason that David would make it a part of his show.
I remember I saw someone on a YouTube commenter commented on the New York Dolls original and said this was the beginning of the end of the Dolls and possibly the beginning of Buster Poindexter. I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is, because they always had covers on their albums.
Yeah.
Like their first two. I mean, they definitely paid tribute to their influences.
Yeah,
Anyway, so David's stranded in the jungle, but he's trying to keep a date with his girl back in the States. He wants to get a message back home, but he didn't know that the wreckage of his plane had been picked up and spotted by his girl in Lover's Lane. Meanwhile, back in the States, a rival tells David's girl that David hasn't got a chance. So come on and get with the rival. Meanwhile, back in the jungle, David's on the run. He gets hit with something that he thinks is like an atomic bomb and wakes to find himself in cooking gear. He smells something cooking, realizes it's him.
Yep.
Meanwhile, back in the States, the rival is not letting up with the girl on Lover's Lane. David still doesn't have a chance, so, why waste time? Meanwhile,
back in the jungle,
David escapes, decides to swim for it, thumbs down a whale who was heading his way, makes it back to the States, and, well, why ruin the ending? Which I think you can figure it out.
Yep.
Anyway, the music switches back and forth between, I don't know if you'd call it jungle music or tropical music. I mean, it's definitely like something you hear in like old Tarzan movies or something.
Yeah.
So they switch between that and 50s rock and roll for being back in the States. And musically, at the beginning of the song, the band sounds just like Van Halen did on Everybody Wants Some. If you play the beginning of that song and this one, really can't tell the difference. But all around, a fun song. This was the version I heard first, and it's my favorite, and it's the most fun. You've got the audience participation. Like you said, you've got the sounds.
Yep.
The Cadets was the second version I heard, and the Dolls version was the third version I heard. But I don't have a problem with any of them, but this one will always be my favorite.
Final track, Personality Crisis. I'm sorry, I heard that opening organ and I thought we were at the baseball game. I was like, I can't take this seriously. Then that scream kicked in and I was like, oh, I'm up. And then those opening guitar chords, dun dun, they sounded like the opening to Los Straitjackets' rendition of Here Comes Santa Claus.
So now we know where they possibly might have gotten that from.
Yep. But then there's this guitar solo in the middle that absolutely shreds, and shout out to whoever's playing, you absolutely killed it. As for lyrics, Dad, I need you to illuminate for me because I went on Google and I couldn't find anything about the meaning, so I was trying, but I couldn't quite make the jump. But I think it's a great closer for this show because it circles back to the beginning of David's career, and it's a high energy note to end on.
Mm-hmm. This is from the New York Dolls' first album. It was written by David and Johnny Thunders, and it was released as a single, which I'm pretty sure did not make the top 40, or maybe even the top 400. Anyway, after all these years of listening to this song, I finally took it upon myself to look up the meaning of the phrase personality crisis. And what I came across was it would just automatically go to identity crisis, but personality crisis can be an existential crisis, an identity crisis, or a midlife crisis, which apparently goes from the ages of 40 to 65, so I'm almost done with mine. It can be a period of confusion over one's sense of self. You question your beliefs, your values, your purpose in life, feeling lost or unsure of who you are. As David and Johnny put it in a couple of lines, and you're a prima ballerina on a spring afternoon, changing to the wolfman howling at the moon. So it's kind of like, on one hand, they're singing about people who are kind of lost and don't know who they are. But at the end of the song, David tells the audience, borrowing from Lloyd Price's song Personality, you walk with personality, you talk with personality, and he tells the audience his final words, you all do. You gotta use it every day. So it's kind of like, just be who you are and just get it out there and just use it and walk it like you talk it. And the show ends.
Overall, I only really vibed with one song on this album, but I think I would have liked to have seen this show live had I been around back then, because it sounds like a great time. You don't miss out on the live experience because the audience isn't reacting to things you can't see. It's all focused on the music. Like, they're not going, like, there's no pause where they're going, ah, because something's happening on stage. But I think it would have been cool to go just for the vibes of everyone dancing and singing along and having a good time. So if you need motivation to go see more concerts, listen to this album and then go see what's playing in your area.
Okay, I just got one more thing to say about personality crisis.
Okay.
It's one personality crisis that you can rock out to, and something that you had mentioned, David's scream at the song's beginning is just absolutely amazing.
Yep.
And overall, this is possibly my most favorite live album ever. I mean, David put on a hell of a show, just giving everything he had. And you can find the full album on YouTube, so there's no excuse for not listening to it. And I highly, highly recommend this album.
All right, as always, thank you for listening to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. The more you interact with the video, the greater chance we have of appearing on the YouTube homepage. If you follow me on social media, I post the episodes there. If you're friends with my dad, tell him what you want to listen to, and he can email it right to your inbox. As always, thank you for listening to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. We will be back next time with another album to nitpick and gripe about that won't be a tribute, hopefully. Please not for a while. Dad, anything you want to say before we sign off?
To quote David's first words on the New York Dolls debut from the Shangri-La song Give Him a Great Big Kiss, when I say I'm in love, you best believe I'm in love. L-U-V. Rest in peace, David.
Rest in peace, David.